Okay. The format for this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, our secretary's announcements, a coffee and snack break, and then our main speaker. Our first speaker tonight is Greg.
Yeah, Greg, let's go. All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Chris for asking me to participate in my recovery. I don't usually speak in front of so many people. You'll soon see why. I'm nervous, so give me a break. But I'm here to share my experience, strength, and hope to a group of alcoholics. And, first of all, my sobriety date is August 28th of 2013. I was 19 years old. I didn't have a very long drinking and using career, but, a little bit about what it was like. When I was young, I was a happy kid. I grew up in Redondo. My dad split when I was young, probably as a result of drugs and alcohol, which did, obviously make a good impact on my life. But it made me not want to use drugs and alcohol. When I was young, I thought they were, evil substances and all that. And growing up in Redondo, life was pretty normal. And then I remember a point in my life when I became angry, because my, family kind of had troubles and all that. And, I became angry, and I didn't really have, I didn't know why, but that's just what happened. And, I moved away to Santa Rosa day after 8th grade, which was kind of a big impact on my life. But in my freshman year, the time came when I had a friend convince me to get drunk, and I remember we stole a bottle of his mom's wine, and we snuck out and we shared this bottle of wine, and I got drunk for the first time, and to me it's a very important part of my life because that was the first real spiritual experience that I ever had. I got the perfect drunk, It was, that's the best way to describe it. It was a spiritual experience. Coming from somebody who never wanted to use drugs or drink, because of my dad as an example. And from that moment on, I knew that I needed to continue. This is how I wanted to feel. This is how I wanted to live my life. And it was my solution. And it's funny being young and then coming to the rooms, all the kind of similar language and all that. But from that day on, I told myself I need to figure out how to manage this because I could see this becoming a problem. I was a good student in high school up until that point. I had a lot of trust from my mom because I wasn't a troublemaker when I was a kid. I got a brother and a sister the same age, and so my sister would get her, female attention, and my brother would get negative attention. So I was like, hey, you guys are busy. I'm just going to go hang out at the skate park and do my own thing, hang out with friends. And so from a very young age, I had a lot of freedom. And then, when I started getting drunk and using, drugs came right along with it. I was kind of on my own. And, like I said, I wanted to figure out how to control and manage this so that I could maintain, because I knew right off the bat that I wanted to stay drunk and stay using. It made me feel good. It filled the void that I had from a very young age. Like I said, I became angry. I didn't have any other escape, and maybe anger was a way for me to control the way I felt. But when I got drunk and when I got high, it made me feel okay. And that continued, and I very progressively went downhill, because I used to hang out at the skate park a lot, and before that it was fine. I was focused on, on that, but the other side of the skate park, everybody's getting loaded anyway, so it quickly transitioned for me, and I had a lot of friends who liked to party, and I was right along with it. Drugs, were easily accessible, and I loved getting high. And when I was 16, I thought I knew better than my mom, and I moved myself back down here. I lived with friends. I enrolled myself in Redondo High. and I partied, One of the reasons why I wanted to move back here, it's funny, like I said, coming into the rooms, all these terms and all that, but I did a geographic, I wanted to come move back here because I thought, I was getting in trouble up there and I was all messed up. And I was like, if I move back home, everything's going to be like it was when I was a kid. And I knew I'm a triplet. I got a brother and a sister. We went to a few different middle schools. I knew everybody, but I felt alone when I came back, and that made me, want to get drunk and high even more. Anyways, I realized my time here is short. I only got 10 minutes. So what happened was in high school, I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. I had a friend whose mom made him go there, and I remember I was interested. I was like, wait, and this was the same guy. He was my neighbor. He goes, hey, if you get drunk and high by yourself, that's a problem. He goes, I live right down the street. Hit me up whenever, and we'd get high together, and he was the first one that introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I came to meetings. I didn't stay, but it was interesting to me. I went to the Hermosa Alano Club, and there's still the mirror that says "We Care," and it had such a big impact on me. I was like, whoa, And people would talk to me. They let me talk. I was all tweaked out, just jabbering, and I went to rehab I went to Redgate for 5.5 months. I got kicked out because of bad behavior, and didn't stay sober. But, I was at the South Bay Roundup one year in around 2013, and I met my buddy Chris back there, and he extended his hand. And, we kept in touch. We were working together. We were tearing off roofs together. And, and that kind of, that was a big impact. But so from August 28th of 2013, I got a sponsor. That's, I kind of hit a bottom. I've hit a few bottoms before, but I got kicked out of sober living again, and homeless again, and just tired again, and so I went to, nothing was profound that day, but I went to a meeting, and I moved in. Actually, no, I was detoxing on his couch for a couple of days, and then I moved in with his family, sober family, for a year, and that started it. I got a sponsor. I worked the steps. What I did is, I had a lot of community service when I first got here, but every Sunday after community service, I would go play sober softball at Wilson Park, or it was at El Nido back then, but from 2 to 4 for fun and for free. Everybody was welcome. Everybody had fun, And from there, I started making friends, sober friends. And, I was young when I got here. I was really uncomfortable. I thought my life was over. Really, all I knew was partying and getting loaded, and that's all I wanted to do. So when I got here, it sucked, and through working the steps, getting to know myself, growing up in the rooms, it's my life. I've got a twin brother who's out there. We're 29 years old now, and it's sad. He doesn't have anything to show for his life. It's really sad, and I can look back over the last 9.5 years, and I've got a lot to show for it. Today I'm self-employed. I'm a college student. I never planned on being a college student, I started off small at El Camino, didn't know what I was going to do. Turns out I'm good at math and I like physics. I'm a mechanical engineering student now. And I'm at Cal Poly Pomona. They accepted me, and this is all a result of working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My story, if you want to know more about it, see me after the meeting. But what's most important is working the steps and, and getting honest. That's it. There's a lot of, there's so many different kinds of people in this room. And, I've got a really good group of friends today. This is what I like talking about most is today. I love my life today. It's not always great, I don't have financial insecurity. I don't have that much money either, It's great. I'm a full-time student and I just managed to get by, It's all a result of, what was it? Kind of coming to catching up with today, I was thinking the other day, like, man, I've spent a lot of time at school and I've spent a lot of time, doing these things, and am I making the right choice, and all that, and I've I've realized, I came to realize through just thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Where I am today has been a result of all those next indicated actions that I took and faith in the higher power that I acquired through this program, That's another big one I should touch on before, probably 2 minutes are up. I do have faith in a higher power, and it's not like, the big old God with the beard, My conception has become, just kind of the oneness of the universe and like just energy, It's like, it's crazy. Because when I first got here, I knew there was something greater than me just by the coincidences in life. But, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that relationship with my higher power today, because I'll end with this. But, I was questioning where I'm at today and if I'm making the right choices. But where I'm at today is a result of me taking all those next indicated actions and having faith along the way. And so when I retire at night and, say my prayers, I pray to the universe, and I put out positive energy, and I'm ready to accept positive energy in. So that's really it. I have a lot of fun today. I have a lot of friends. I can go, I just got back from Vegas, Mexico. I went to the skate park today. I can go anywhere today completely free of the desire to drink and the desire to use. So, if you're struggling with that, you can talk to me after the meeting, or talk to somebody else. But, I love this program, and, thank you guys for being here.
Yeah.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, our main speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope with us. Please join me in welcoming David from West LA.
My name is Dave W., and I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm a person with alcoholism and a member. My membership is current and in good standing for the most part. Pretty active around here. Not as active as I have been. I have an 11-month-old daughter at home, so I've been learning to practice the principles of recovery in my home's occupations and affairs. And there was a period when I was very fortunate to be able to do a lot of this and say yes a lot and come out and meet new friends and talk to people. And I just want to report that I was taught that I can do recovery outside of the rooms as well, is that I can show up for family, I could try to be concerned for the welfare of other people, and that recovery can be alive and well, and it is. And I've been here before, many years ago, so I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you all for being here. Recovery is awesome. I'm just going to give you a little taste of what that's looked like for me and what that's felt like. My hope is to give you less mind and maybe some more heart. The fact that I'm not running around talking all the time means that there'll probably be less performance tonight and just more vulnerability. Hopefully I can be authentic with you and share with you the real me that showed up after I got sober in 2006. So I've been here a little while. Yeah, I've got some experience around here. I certainly have some experience drinking alcohol, and I'll touch on that. But I've got some years of experience being in AA and writing inventory and sponsoring people and listening to fifth steps and speaking on panels and doing the thing that I was taught to do around here. I want to start off by saying that there's a lot of different ways people can approach this way of life, and I have no interest in swaying you to doing it any differently than you're already doing it. I just have some convictions sometimes, and I sometimes get a little out of hand, okay? Just sneak preview. I get excited about the power of God that works in me and through me and has entered my heart and lives in a way which feels indeed miraculous. It is a miracle that I haven't had a drink since September of 2006. My last drink was industrial hand sanitizer inside of a correctional facility. There's a chemical process from which you can extract the alcohol from the soap, and that was just another thing that we did having time pass by, right? So when I got here in 2006, I had a lot of stories that I wanted to tell. Oh, I couldn't wait. Give me 45 minutes on a Saturday night. I'm going to tell y'all about the Hollywood Hills and the rave scene in the early 2000s and the cars that I bought with the drug money and the Louis XIII and the bottles of alcohol. And I was going to indulge in a lot of my own story. And I hope you have a story too. Hopefully your story is important to you and meaningful to you. I'm going to share some of it tonight, but I do want to state that one of the biggest gifts of being here for 16 plus years is that I've gotten relatively free of the details of my story. The content of it is not like the most important thing, okay? There's another story around here, and that's the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism, and that's on the cover page of the big book. And I was told to tell my story, and I'm going to do that tonight, but to also tell the collective story, the collective legacy of Alcoholics Anonymous, the we factor. I'm super into super into self, and I don't know if I was born that way. Some people talk about being selfish and self-centered and egocentric to the core, having that be at the root of our troubles, and I certainly identify with that. But when I look back to my childhood, I remember caring about people that were struggling and people that were suffering, and I believe that I developed some of my deep self-seeking ways as a result of drinking and a life of crime, that I was in the survival mode for many years, and I learned to be dishonest in order to survive. I learned to put myself ahead of other people. I learned to put my life on the line if I have to get the thing that I need to get. When I got to AA in 2006, there was people that started talking about the we, like the we of Alcoholics Anonymous. We, right? We admitted that we were powerless. And it was a powerful message to me because I didn't really ever want to join anything. I'm not super big on joining, right? I'm super big on counterculture. I'm super big on creating my own movements, right? All by myself, right? I'm not big on like joining collective energy, right? I've always identified as counterculture, like I want music before it comes out, right? When it comes out, like I'm no longer interested in it. I was a guy that like bought funky, parts to my car as a 16-year-old because I needed it to look different. You know what I'm saying? I need it to be custom. I need to prove to you that I'm important. I put in a lot of effort to make myself appear mysterious. I was totally that kid driving down your residential street at midnight bumping, with the bass, right? Just trying to make waves through the world, right? I'm the guy that wrote on the walls, right? And left my mark, right? I am from West Los Angeles. I come from a genetic legacy of alcoholism. My grandfather was a sober member of AA, and he died with 20 plus years of sobriety. I was actually in jail for his funeral, just to give you a sense of, how I roll, who I am, right? I think I had a friend who was going to rehab soon, and so we had to do like a big prehab night, before someone goes away, you got to celebrate, And it was one of my first cases. I fell asleep driving and I injured someone, and I was arrested at the scene, felony DUI, great bodily harm, hit and run. And I've got more of that. I just want to give you a little taste of what I'm capable of when I'm in my cups. It says in Bill's story, an alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature, right? So I'm capable of causing a lot of harm. And I've also learned that as a sober person, I'm capable of being a part of the healing, right? To be a part of the solution, to learn how to lift people up and encourage people to go out there and chase their dreams. And it's really, really awesome to live two lifestyles in one lifetime and to be a both and rather than an either or. It's not like I'm this or this, like I'm a combination of all that stuff, and it's alive and well. And it's one of my favorite parts of the book. In the third step, it says, on one hand, he's more likely, he can be mean and egotistical and selfish, right? But on the other hand, he could be kind and loving and considerate. But as with most humans, he's more likely to have varied traits, right? To be a complex combination of these different things at the same time. I have a rigid mind, and I'm totally susceptible to cognitive rigidity, being like it's either this or that. And I have a long history of bringing my rigidity into AA, and saying things that split the room in half, right? And I've come a long way. I've come a long way to have like a mind that's more like water and less like rocks. But I do want to say that a little bit of rigidity can go a long way in AA, right? Because it's kind of difficult to stay sober, right? Like it's a big deal if you have alcoholism to not drink at all. So being a little bit rigid about working the steps, about not drinking, is not necessarily a bad thing, right? So I had to get rigid to be free, but I didn't get free so that I'd live a rigid life, right? So there's a process of which I can undo some of the training that I've had in AA, but I stand on the shoulder of giants. I'm talking about people that have really, really told me the truth and told me what I was up against, told me things like, Dave, no, you are not going to be okay. Not that, oh, come on, just love yourself and call me and you'll be fine. People told me the truth. They're like, you're the real McCoy. You are going to drink again, left to your own devices, and most likely you're going to end up doing a long stretch, right? I needed people that told me the truth, right? And I'm so grateful for the people that didn't sugarcoat it and that told me that the program was in the big book. Told me the things that are difficult to even say from a podium, right? People told me, like, if it ain't in the big book, it ain't AA. You got to sit down and go through the process and get clear on the message. If you want to carry the message, you got to know what the message is. Otherwise, you're just carrying the mess. People that challenged me and gave me really good training. So when it was my turn to share, I knew that my job was to carry the message of AA and not just the message of Dave W., right? But I have a message too, and I get to share a little bit of that tonight. But I also want to be really clear that, like, this ain't about me. You know, people told me, wow, that was a great talk. You carry a good message. Like, it's really not my message. I carry to you the message of Alcoholics Anonymous from 1939. The altruistic movement. It talked about the path that was blazed by the first 100 men and women. I swear to you, when I read that in one of the forewords, it wasn't like, oh, God, I'm reading the big book with someone. This is so annoying. I was like, yo, there was a path that was blazed by the first 100 men and women? Like, who are they? You know, and I want to know the path, right? Like, I got super excited. I don't know why. Maybe it was because circumstances made me willing. But when I got here in 2006, I was in a pretty low spot. I mean, I gave up all the storytelling, right? Like, when I got here in 2006, I had 5 felony convictions. I had never had a real job. All my stuff was in storage, and I had $80,000 worth of debt from a civil lawsuit from that car accident, right? Everything was in a storage unit on Venice Boulevard in Culver City, and I ended up at another treatment center 3 blocks from where I used to make transactions. I had tried going to treatment in places away from where I lived. You know, you got to get away from the home base, right? None of that worked. I'm the guy that goes into 30-day treatment. This is back when 30-day treatment was even a thing. And I get loaded the day I leave, right? I've gotten loaded in treatment centers. I've gotten loaded in hospital detoxes. And I've gotten loaded inside of correctional facilities. If I can get a job on a pill module, I'll take an inmate's medication and I'll snort it without even knowing what it is. I go to great lengths to get loaded, and I was told that I want to bring that same vigorous energy into my recovery, and I've been doing a little bit of that since I got here. So I got sober at a nonprofit treatment center, which I think is super, super helpful to me. I have an antenna because of the way that I was raised and the experiences that I had, that, like, I need to feel safe, right? And I got sober at a really, really safe place. It was at a time when AA was vibrant, and I went to the Marina Center, and I went to 26 and Broadway, and I went to meetings in West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. I came down to the South Bay a little bit. I would go to the San Fernando Valley. I would drive to South Central. I would go to the Inland Empire. I just was driving around getting fed, listening to how different people approach this design for living. And I would look for convergence, right? It's really good to have a home group, by the way. Big fan. Get a group, get people that you're accountable to, form a network. If you don't show up, people call you. Fantastic. But it's also really awesome to go check out other pockets of enthusiasm and go to the random little book workshop somewhere and see what kind of energy they're cooking up somewhere else. Because I really traveled. I was really hungry and I was really curious. And when I got sober, they used to do a lot of marathons where, like, different meetings would come and fall down on a holiday, and I would sit in the marathon all day long just soaking up game. I wanted to hear what everyone had to say. And I stuck around long enough to start to see some patterns, to start to notice some patterns in the way that people were talking. And again, there's a lot of different messages that come through AA. I'll just say this, like if you stick to the literature, you're probably on the right path. You know what I'm saying? But it did seem, when I first got here, people that had big books were a little scary to me, especially if they had a leather cover on them. Like that was really pushing it. You know what I'm saying? And if you carry it under your arm like that, I'm scared, right? I am not interested. But after a little while, I started to notice that the people that were into the big book and had enthusiasm about God and were talking about the literature had a little bit more confidence in what they were talking about, right? It was just a little bit more enthusiasm, right? And these were also people that weren't afraid to make point-blank declarations about the power of God working in their life. And that really got my attention. And these were also the people that were willing to talk about the promises in the big book. So we talk about the 9-step promises, right? Maybe we read them at this meeting. They're amazing. But I swear to you, going to speaker meetings, and I would hear someone say something like I'm about to say. There are promises all throughout the steps. There's promises associated with the 2nd step, 3rd step, the 5th step promises, right? That we could be alone at perfect peace and ease, that I could just be at home not needing a whole lot of stimulation, right? Promises associated with the 9th step and the 10th step promises, right? Return to sanity. And the 11th step taught me about being able to trust my thinking. And then, wow, the major promise of AA is a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. So I heard this once. This is good. I'm going to share it with you. If you're looking for a sponsor and you're new, just go up to him point blank and ask him, have you had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps? If they get all nervous and stuff, backpedal, right? Maybe that's not the person that you're looking for. But if you see their eyes light up and they get excited and they know that they've had an awakening that has revolutionized their life, it could be a good person to talk to. It could be a good person to talk to because it ain't about how good is someone as a speaker and how awesome are they at the meeting, right? It's about how well equipped is someone to take you through the process and lift you up and then walk shoulder to shoulder with you. I've sponsored a lot of people and none of them are under me. They're all equals. I've read inventory to my people. I don't do the like, I am the guy, I'm building a legacy, and these are my great-great-grand sponsees. All of that has always made me super nervous, right? And if that's your jam, honor it, right? If you're into lineages, honor it, right? I am not into that kind of stuff. Some of it just feels like a superimposed social hierarchy in a place where people are really, really sick, right? And so I learned that sponsorship was about lifting people up to the level, becoming equal, and then walking the path together, right? And that's how I was raised in AA. And I've had really, really, really good training. My first sponsor was a guy from a treatment center that I went to, and he was the cool guy. And that's where I was at in my journey. He had a nice car, and he was going to pick me up from rehab. He better have some cool shit playing when he pulls up too. You know what I mean? That was my first sponsor. My second sponsor, I got with him because he had been through the criminal justice system and he understood what it was like to call every single day, right? And he was super, super helpful to me. The third sponsor that I got was in my second year of sobriety. I'd done some step work, but I had reached another bottom. We talk about like the second surrender. There's been a lot of surrenders for me. First, I surrender like, okay, I want to be sober. And then it's like, I surrender, I want to be sober, I want to do AA. And then it's like, I surrender, I want to be sober, I want to do AA, and I want to work the 12 steps, right? And then in this second year of sobriety, it was like, I want to be sober, I want to do AA, I want to work the 12 steps. And then it was like, I want to work the 12 steps as outlined in the big book, like with a higher level of precision, right? As opposed to just being super, super vague about it. And I was so fortunate that in South LA and in Santa Monica, there were people that were actually putting leather covers on it and putting it under their arm and showing up at the meeting. And they were down to like sit after the meeting and like go through some pages. They were serious about getting people through the process. And I was like, yo, this is powerful. And what I learned was that the more we let the power flow through us, the more it flows in us, and that the work we do in AA isn't exhausting. It doesn't burn me out. It doesn't burn up energy foolishly. it invigorates me. It gives me life, right? That 10 minutes of meditation in the morning isn't 10 minutes lost. That's 10 minutes gained plus more because I'm more efficient with my thought processes. And that the whole point of AA was about generating usefulness and gaining access to power by which I could live my life, right? And so it was no longer about a place that I came to or a phone list or even a home group. It was a design for a living that's portable, that I could take with me when I go across international borders. And it involves taking a look at self, being able to clean things up quickly, being able to sit quietly when in doubt, always looking for ways to be useful, right? And I learned pretty early on that I am a substance-seeking animal that has confused pleasure for happiness. So when something gives me neurochemical reward, when something activates my ventral striatum and I assign it a lot of salience, right, I believe that it makes me happy. When in reality, it just activates neurochemical reward and gives me pleasure. And so I came into AA with a whole list of things that made me happy. Stuff, material things, images, right? Substances, caffeine, nicotine, sugar, the whole shebang. And then I come to realize that by seeking pleasure, I'm robbing myself of true happiness. And I was told in AA that happiness comes from usefulness. And that I'm going to stop pursuing my own agenda and work on trying to be useful by trying to help other people and see what God has in store for me. I'm going to say that I come from a genetic legacy of alcoholism. When I took my first drink at 12, it felt different than it probably did for most people. It registered. It kind of went all the way down to my toes. I don't know if you have what I have, but my body was just waiting for the thing, right? It's embedded into my physiology. And I had a fair share of adversity in my teenage years, going to public school in Los Angeles and trying to do things to get by, and a lot of violence and a lot of uncomfortable moments. And then, by the time I was a late teen, full-blown raver, I'm a hard liquor. Like, I like things that are in their purest form. I progress through like the beer and the wine and stuff like pretty quickly. And I get to a point where I just like things straight from the bottle, not even super into ice or any of that other stuff. I used to drink and drive a lot. And by the time I was 21, I was a full-blown alcoholic. And I knew that it would kind of end up like with sobriety. But I did think that I could pull it off on my own. I really did think that like when things got bad enough that I would be able to exert my willpower and like make a decision. The consequences would wake me up and that I would get sober. And it makes so much sense why someone would think that, right? Like when life gets difficult, you snap out of it, right? Pull myself up by my bootstraps and try harder. And I really believe that that would be my trajectory. But needless to say, it took me treatment centers and court cases and hospital detoxes to finally land here. And like I said, I went through a couple different sponsors. In my second year of sobriety, I was in the fetal position, waiting for a text message from a married woman, driving on a suspended license because one of my cases was picked up from the DMV a year later. I had been in AA, but I wasn't living a life that felt like I had an open heart and that I could receive the real blessings of a sober life. And it was probably because I hadn't actually done the amends process, right? Like I did some really lightweight amends, and you could do lightweight step work. I think you could do step work and then do more step work and then do more step work. I'm not super big on like this masterpiece inventory. Like it has to be this big exhaustive thing. I really believe you can do like some step work and some more step work and some more step work and keep doing it. That's how it's worked for me. My first inventory was me trying to impress that sponsor, tell him about how awesome I was, right? Wanted him to know about the people that owed me money, people that didn't come to visit me when I was in Supermax. So-and-so said he was going to send a magazine. He didn't, right? Like that sort of energy, that was the best I could do at the time. And then in my second inventory, there was a little bit more. And by the time I was in my second year, I was like pouring it out and I was ready to do a fifth step. And after I did a fifth step, I was in this way of life, committed. And I was like, I called him up a week later. I was like, yo, can we do more of that? Like, can I follow up and give you more stuff? And he was like, sure. And we met at the park again. I just like told him everything, started to assume that recovery was real and this way of life was going to be accessible to me. And I had nothing to lose. And I became all in, you guys. And I got super on fire for the literature, the 12-step way of life. And it did get to a point where I didn't think about much else. I am one of those people, like 3 years sober, hitting 3 meetings a day, reading the book with new people, 2-3 sponsees in a day, like meeting people at midnight. I had this really small apartment, a rent-controlled apartment in Santa Monica, like this big, and people coming in and out all day long. And I swear to you, I felt so alive. I had a chance. I finished my undergraduate degree. I was very fortunate to go back to school after taking a year and a half off to live in some unsafe places. And I had to get my GPA up to a 2.0. And I think that I had the lowest GPA in history to ever get out of this university. They said, like, you can't graduate unless you have a 2.0. And I was below it. On academic probation, you guys might know how that goes, right? When you like get a really excited new semester and you register for everything and you're going to do it, and then you just got to drop everything and you try to do that one class so that it just got really, really bad. I am a product of the rave scene, I will say that. Late 90s, early 2000s, I went hard, and I stayed awake for a lot of days at a time. And it's a miracle that my faculties remain and my brain fires the way it does. I'm talking about a lot of nitrous, y'all. Like, I did a lot of, you know what I mean? And by way of spirituality, nutrition, exercise, sunlight, sleep, a lot of wellness, like my brain fires today. And I store things. My memory is like really solid, right? And that's a result of, not drinking and spiritual way of life and a lot of years of recovery and a little neuroplasticity. Let's see. I finished my undergrad. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I got really into fitness and wellness, and I was doing jujitsu down here in the South Bay, and I was starting to climb mountains, and I climbed Mount Whitney, and I started walking LA marathons, and I was bodybuilding, and I was just chasing life and feeling amazing all the time. I went to Marina Center late night at 11 p.m. like every night for a decade, right? And it's like go there and just connect and share and celebrate recovery. I like to be in meetings that are celebrations of recovery, where people are not afraid to make the meeting a pep rally for the power of God. People that get up there and share about making their amends, get up, be excited to share they got their first sponsee. People that are not afraid to talk about using the big book to work the steps. People that my favorite meetings, we have topic meetings. Right? So the speaker always picks a topic from the big book, and we ask that people who share try to adhere somewhat to the topic at hand, right? So it's kind of like saying in a real subtle way, like if you haven't read the book, you share at your newcomer meeting, you know what I mean? It's a subtle way of saying we want you to read the literature and we want you to share. We want to hear from you. And at a bare minimum, at the end of the meeting, everyone will have at least picked up on a theme, right? Like if everyone shared on the third step for the night, you leave the meeting invigorated with the third step, right? And so I got really into wellness. My brain started firing. I started getting signals from the universe. There's a part in chapter 7 where it says, "Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you'll presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances." And I started listening. You don't get this a lot in AA. I'm going to just go ahead and say it. If you work the program, one of the major messages of Alcoholics Anonymous is that you will become intuitive. That if you work the program and you clear the weight of the wreckage of your past, that you can actually sit quietly and get messages from a power, whatever you want to call it, that you can trust. It's very different than the messages you hear in AA. You could do a lot of AA meetings. You're going to hear people talk about how crazy they are and how their brain is a bad neighborhood and how they have stinking thinking. And I am not telling you that I don't have stinking thinking, okay? My mind is highly susceptible to negative predictions, to going to dark places. But I can tell you that the message of AA, the one that got my attention, and got me to get a leather case for my big book, was the message that if you work the steps, you will be able to trust your thinking again. It's not permanent, but if you work the steps wholeheartedly and you work on being useful and you stay current, that when you get a thought, you can trust it as an intuitive thought from God rather than a toxic thought from alcoholism. You understand the difference? So this is the messages of steps 9, 10, 11, and 12. And they are not talked about a lot because they make people uncomfortable. It makes people uncomfortable when you talk about being restored to sanity, right? It's not an ego thing. It's not like, oh, I've transcended alcoholism. My alcoholism is alive and well, okay? I've had multiple cross addictions, you name it, right? Behavioral addictions. I could pull an all-nighter on caffeine and nicotine. And I'd be tweaking sober, okay? I'm telling you, right? I've experienced the whole shebang, right? I resonated with some of the stuff that I was hearing. I did. It caught my attention. And I wanted to share the message of AA. And when I went to graduate school, I had a really powerful experience. I was able to do a master's, and there are some issues here, but I don't know how important that is for you. I was able to go to a master's program at like 3, 4, 5 years sober, and it was like the best time of my life. I was working on paying off my debts. I did not have a lot of money. I had a lot of AA. I had a lot of spirit. I started to have a lot of confidence and a little bit of self-esteem, and I had a job working as a private tutor for a kid who had prosthetic legs. He was a burn victim. And I knew a guy from CA, and his sister worked for a nonprofit, and they needed someone to help like homeschool this kid. And he wasn't like, and like, keep in mind, I was a multiple convicted felon, right? And I had a chance to homeschool a high school kid, right? With this private school kid, right? And I was working as a personal trainer, like I said, getting super active out there, getting really into wellness, and starting to feel really, really, really good, y'all. Like feel really, really good. Like the kind of feeling where you wake up in the morning, you don't need a cup of coffee, you want to sit quietly. You know what I'm saying? When you wake up and you're excited about your life and you feel like recovery is alive and well. I think to get current, to bring it up to the more recent years, I remember being like 4 or 5 years sober and hearing people that were in the teenagers, like the 15, 16, 17. We're like pretty rare. Like if you do the stats in the room, you get the people that are in their first 10 years, and then like the 20-plussers, right? The 20s and 30s. Like the teenagers, it gets like it's a little bit less, right? Because people are like, do I really want to stay here? Is this my life? Like, is this for real? And doing other things, etc. I think when I was, I got really involved in academics, and I started writing things, and I instead of going out to eat after the meeting, I went home to read like journal articles and put together PowerPoint presentations, and I was like, my mind was like a sponge, y'all. Like I wanted to learn, I wanted to sleep, I wanted to read, I wanted to talk to people. And that's how I knew recovery is real. There's a line in the book. It says, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. So when you lead with spirit, God relieves me of the obsession to drink. My body comes back online. And it also says that a spiritual way of living is a powerful health restorative. That by being spiritual in my heart and in my way of being, that I'm not going through life like in fight or flight. I'm not like living a high stress life, right? And that allows healing to occur. So when I was like 7, 8 years sober, the adversity started to show up. I had heard people talking about difficulties. I really didn't have a lot of them. I really didn't. And then it was like I had my first injury, super difficult. Like I couldn't exercise for a little while, and my mind started getting loud again. And then I started having health problems. I was like in my 30s. All of a sudden, I have eczema. Right? And I can't sleep. And I'm just like, I'm not a little kid anymore. And like, I'm starting to get like stuff on my face, and I got to go see the dermatologist. And, I'm starting to get stuff frozen on my face because I used to just be in the sun all day long. And then it's like, no, like I'm not well. I have health challenges. And my mom, she started losing her cognition. and started having early dementia in her 60s, right? And so, I got a deep call, I don't know, 7 years ago. I got the call. I think I was going to get married. I was going to get married. And I was like in my mid-30s. I'm 41 now. And I was like, no, I'm not ready for that. I need to keep going. And I got a call to like pursue academics, which was like, pretty clear message. It was like, follow your bliss, follow your joy, right? I've worked as a clinician for many years, and it was like, I want to do more. And I ended up getting into a PhD program at UCLA, and it was very difficult for me. I did not get financial aid. I had to work the whole time. I had to lie about working because they want to like put you to work. And they totally destroyed my spirit. And it's by design. That's how that goes, right? They were not impressed with my story. I didn't even tell it, right? It was more like, it's funny. I once was going to do like this work in an addiction lab at some other university, and I told him my story, and he was like, "You don't care about your story. We care about your scientific methods, man. Like, that's just going to bias your findings. Like, get that shit out of my lab." Right? And it was heavy for me because I would thought like, oh my God, the world is so impressed with my AA story. It's like, no, I'm not 12 steps ahead. I'm 12 steps behind. I need to do a lot of work just to get on even keel with the rest of the universe. And it's not about me, right? And I ended up really having an awesome time. It was awesome. But I lost a lot of sleep. I had a lot of PTSD symptoms. There was a period of time when I had to go into therapy and have support to help me sleep at night. I felt like they were trying to get me out of the program. I got paranoid, you name it, right? Like I almost went to a psych ward one night when my computer didn't work. You know what I'm saying? You can just picture it, right? Like all I want to do is just write papers, and I wrote 20 of them. I have 20 peer-reviewed first author papers, right, on my area of expertise, and I just became like a workaholic, and I went hard, and I'm not bragging about it. I'm saying like there were some really low spots because, I want to get ahead. I have this deep underlying wound that I messed up my life and I fell behind, right, that I have to work so hard to catch up. That I need to work so hard because for 7 years, all I did was drink and live in different places. And now all my friends that I grew up with, they have kids and homes, and I need to catch up, and I need to work really hard, and it's never enough. And when I get the next thing, I have to do more. And then I learned to sit and write inventory and look at my fears and put them on paper and tell the truth about myself and come to the meeting and share, right? And learn how to just be. Stop doing so much and start being, right? When I got sober in 2006, everyone was talking about Eckhart Tolle and living in the now. And I remember I was so mad because it's not in the big book, you know what I mean? I was like, that's not AA. Get that out of here, right? But fast forward, what do I really need in my life today? It's not more money, more degrees, more papers, or more prestige, right? It really is more presence, more heart-centered life, more inner peace, right? And I've totally intellectualized my AA journey. I've turned big book workshops into PhD programs, and we can go really deep and underline, and we cross-reference other pages, and we box words and put asterisks in the margins, and I'm super into that. But I really want to be clear, you do not have to be super into that to have a good recovery. But if you are super into that, do it. Don't let people tell you you're crazy for wanting to work the steps and use the big book. Don't let people in your sober living tell you you're crazy because you love God and you want to talk about it. Don't let people in AA scare you out of recovery because they want to do it their way. If you find a path that resonates with you and you're excited about something, do it. It doesn't matter what you do around here. It matters if you believe in it and if you do it wholeheartedly, right? There's so many different ways that people can recover. If you love the 12 and 12 and that's it for you and you love it and you feel like that's sufficient and you give it your all, you'll get some results. It doesn't matter as long as you give it everything you got, right? I was told in AA it's one of these places where it says half measures avail does nothing. If you give it 80%, you might get nothing. You might end up loaded, right? So the thing is become sold on whatever it is we're doing here. Buy in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I did. I drank the AA Kool-Aid. And I'm also recovering from that too. I've learned to really take a look at the AA culture and the social structures that are built here. And there's definitely been parts in the last few years where I'm like, do I want to be a part of this? Truly, honestly. But I also know that the power of God found me in AA and entered into my heart and changed me from the inside out, right? And that my favorite thing to do is just read the big book with other people. And I've been doing it every Wednesday night for the last 8 or 9 years. We have a workshop. It's called the Fledgling Society, and it's on Zoom. And we go from the cover page to 164, and we just do it over the course of the year. We just go through the book, show people how to take inventory in prayer. And that's the thing that I like to do. You guys told me, follow your joy, follow your bliss. That's what I do in AA. I read the book with people, and it's open if anyone wants to join. We're in inventory right now. We just did fear inventory. I read my fear inventory to 80 people the other night because that's how I roll. I'm an open book, right? I finished the PhD program, which was like a really, really, really deep sigh of relief. It was really difficult because, there was just a lot of energy in the world, conflictual energy. I also wanted to be the professor instead of the student. You guys know how that goes, right? I was really sure that I should be running the department, and it just really, really was difficult. I started to, I feel like I'm starting to settle into an adulthood. I know that I look 22. I know. I did a lot of heroin, okay? And I've really prioritized my nutrition and wellness in the last 17 years. There's days when I feel like I'm still a 17-year-old. I swear to you. I just feel like a little wounded child. You can probably see it in my face, right? And then there's other days where it's like, no, I've actually integrated back into the mainstream of life. I was able to buy a home in West LA, 4 blocks from where I grew up. And I bought a place near my parents so that I could be around for my mother as she's aging, because you guys told me that what I do in my home's occupations and affairs is more important than what I do in the rooms, and that I need to show up. Do I show up like the best all the time? No. Sometimes I go to the memory care unit and I want to leave because it hurts, right? And there's other times I'm like, bypass the mind, access the heart, be here now, right? And I'm able to show up for my life. I got married 2 years ago and we had a daughter. And I feel like I've made a pretty good beginning. I feel like I've been around here for long enough. I've had ego deflation. Ego rebuilds itself. Ego deflation, cognitive rigidity, fluidity, right? Different parts of self showing up. New addictions show up, cross addictions, new wounds get emerged, right? And I get to move through life and take a look at them, share it with a life partner who I met here in AA, right? And share it with groups of people. We have little camping trips, and we do these night walks, and we do all kinds of really awesome stuff. And I have a pretty strong sense of self. I don't have any secrets. There isn't anything that I don't want people to find out. I feel pretty good about the person that I am. You know what I mean? And that's the real stuff, right? The quality of my life is really a function of, the quality of my thoughts, right? And the quality of my thoughts is a function of the quality of my spirit. And the quality of my spirit is related to how well do I connect with other people? Am I truthful? Am I transparent? Am I consistent, right? It's tricky. It's tricky, wanting to be the same person in all my affairs. You know what I'm saying? It's a challenge, right? It's I'm a rare story, right? I am a multiple convicted felon. I have a doctorate at one of the top universities in the world. I do research, mental health research. And there's times when I just want to be me. And I have to manage, I have to manage impressions a little bit. But my formula has always been just be me. Just trust God, be me, right? But not everyone's impressed with the recovery story. You know what I'm saying? And being in recovery doesn't always impress people. And most people have met someone who was in recovery who's no longer in recovery, that did something shady to them. You know what I'm saying? And so living a life as a member of a marginalized group is not always easy. But I stand tall and represent recovery to the best of my ability. And I love seeing people celebrate their recovery. This is about joy. The message of AA is about freedom. It says we can go anywhere on this earth other free people go without disaster, provided that I'm willing to maintain a certain simple attitude. And for me, the attitude is God is everything. If God can restore a real drinker, real alcoholic like me back to sanity, make me useful, help integrate me into the mainstream of life, and give me a little bit of purpose, meaning, and direction, I'm going to go ahead and say anything is possible. And if anything is possible, go ahead and place a tall order in the realm of the Spirit. Assume up. Assume that your life can get really, really awesome. But get into action. And I was told, be patient. And I'm going to close with this. If there's one thing I'm currently working on in my spiritual path, it really is just being patient, right? I could be on 2 different days. One day I'm in the grocery store and I'm just so impressed by the other human beings. And I'm so curious about their life. And the next day I am just appalled that someone would park their thing in the middle of the thing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm able to watch my mind. I watch my mind. I'm like, oh my God, there it is again, right? How can I come back to now? How can I bypass this? How can I do more of this? How can I show up in a really meaningful way and make my recovery not about quantity? Don't get in the quantity trap that you have to quantify your recovery with how many meetings maybe if you're in treatment, you need to check some boxes, but it's not about how many sponsees, how many meetings, and da-da-da-da-da. Recovery should be a qualitative affair. It's the inner world, right? My inner life, right? And I've got some work to do, but like I said, I feel like I've made a good beginning, and I'm deeply grateful for all the people that came before me. Thank you.